Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. SEC Chairman Gary Gensler is living in a fantasy land where the skies are always blue and the birds are always chirping and there's puppies and ice cream and happiness just everywhere. That's all that it ever is, and where there's sufficient clarity regarding securities and what represents a security as it pertains to cryptocurrencies. It's the fantasy land that Gary Gensler is living in. So either he's living in this fantasy land or he's being deceptive. Either way, I'm not really particularly fond of what's going on here. And so Gary Gensler, just the other day, he was speaking at Aspen Security Forum. I wasn't familiar with Aspen Security Forum, but here you can see on their Twitter they describe themselves as the following. The nonpartisan Aspen Security Forum brings together leading thinkers, government officials, and journalists to explore key security issues. And so I, like many others, was looking forward to seeing what he'd have to say, because we knew, as he had cited here in this tweet that's on your screen that I'm not going to read, that cryptocurrencies and investor protection were going to be discussed. And he ended up giving a speech that was in line with what I expected, unfortunately. So I'm going to break down some key parts of this, and I will articulate why it doesn't make sense to live in the fantasy land that Gary Gensler is effectively living in. What he's saying is there's sufficient regulatory clarity. This is what he's saying. And, you know, it's not that I disagree with him on literally everything. I'm not saying that there isn't room to have additional investor protections. I'd be willing to have discussions about that personally, as long as it's not, government overreach. I'm always concerned about stuff like that. But if it's thoughtful regulation that genuinely is going to protect investors from scammers and the like, well, sure, of course, let's talk about that. That's fine. But separate from that is this issue of clarity. And that's the part where I'm taking tremendous issue here, because, again, he's pretending like everything's just fine. It's just not in line with reality. Now, I do want to be clear at the outset. I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who makes YouTube videos all up on the internets because it's a very fun hobby. Oh, and by the way, I got a couple comments from a couple attorneys within the XRP community. Including attorney Jeremy Hogan and attorney John Deaton. So lots to talk about here. Now, this is a video clip. I'm not going to play the clip. I don't need you. I can tell you in like 5 seconds what matters from it. But my fellow XRP YouTuber Jungle Inc. shared this clip, and it was basically just Gary saying, "Hey," he was whoever was interviewing him, some guy named Mike, I forget. He was, whatever the question was, it doesn't matter. He's pushing back and saying, "Look, I got to push back a little bit there. I think that we have been very clear there. You know, it's very clear what the SEC stance is regarding, crypto and security, so on and so forth." I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's what he was he was getting at, and he spoke for 30 seconds on that in this clip here. And so Jungle Inc. shared that on Twitter, and he wrote the following. "With all respect, Chairman Gary Gensler, you can laugh just like Clayton, but investors, industry, and even your own commissioners have been begging for more clarity. It is the SEC's job to provide exactly that. If your policy was clear, you wouldn't need to hide behind individual opinions." Yeah, that's absolutely true, and I'll take it a step further, though. If your policy were clear, you wouldn't have endless numbers of market participants coming to commissioners saying, "Hey, we really need clarity." And not just commissioners. There's all sorts of people within the SEC that are being questioned regularly. And you don't see this in other markets. Now, is that not a very clear indicator that you're not providing sufficient clarity? You don't see this surrounding stocks or precious metals, other things that people speculate on. You see it only within the crypto asset class. That is a red flag that something is amiss, and you're saying, no, we have provided sufficient clarity. That is not true. And then another XRP community member chimed in, responding to what Jungle Inc. wrote there. This is Crypto Bull. And he wrote, "I especially love the part where he says, 'I encourage platforms to come and talk to us.' You mean like Ripple did for 8 years, and then you sued them? And then the chair goes to work for the competition? What a joke." I know, and I always think about that as well. Because I've heard Jay Clayton say the same thing. Hey, look, of course, if you want to do something with blockchain technology and crypto, that's fine. Just come talk to us. But the problem is there isn't a path forward. There is no safe harbor. If you want to launch a cryptocurrency, it's a virtual certainty that it's going to be viewed as a security, as you shall see as I go through this. I mean, to take a look at this. So here are his comments. which they put on the official SEC website. Now, of course, mind you, these are just his personal opinions, because that's what it is. It's like, what is the SEC's opinion then? Because the SEC, as far as I know, is not a sentient being. It's like, what is the official position of this non-sentient being? Like, what is that? And if it doesn't come from the people that make the SEC what it is, the people working there, including Gary, who is #1 at the top in the SEC, where the hell does it come from? It's just absurd to me. So anyway, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there are some parts that I did print up that I do want to cover here. But these were his actual remarks. And so he said the following: if you want to invest in a digital, scarce, speculative store of value, that's fine. Good faith actors have been speculating on the value of gold and silver for thousands of years. Again, let me pause there, and if I could just say again, how come the speculators that are speculating on gold and silver don't have endless questions about, is so-and-so, is this going to be somehow against what the SEC allows? How come you don't see that? Because there's not clarity. And then he said the following: right now, we just don't have enough investor protection in crypto. Frankly, at this time, it's more like the Wild West. This asset class is rife with fraud, scams, and abuse in certain applications. There's a great deal of hype and spin about how crypto assets work. In many cases, investors aren't able to get rigorous, balanced, and complete information. If we don't address these issues, I worry a lot of people will be hurt. If I could just pause there. To be honest with you, at this point, I'm more concerned about the actions you're going to take harming people. Like, for instance, when your organization, the SEC, was protecting me and other XRP investors by going after Ripple, claiming that XRP itself is a security. Like when you protected us there. Thank you for that. Oh, yes, a little golf clap for you, Mr. Gensler. You know. And I know you're not the one that, you weren't at the SEC at the time, but still, what are you doing to correct them? It's clearly nonsense here. And so, no, I'm more concerned about action in general that the SEC and the government will take. I'm more concerned about that action than a lack of action. Anyway, his comments proceed as follows. First, many of these tokens are offered and sold as securities. There's actually a lot of clarity on that front. In the 1930s, Congress established the definition of a security, which included about 20 items, like stocks, bonds, and notes. One of the items is an investment contract. The following decade, the Supreme Court took up the definition of an investment contract. This case said an investment contract exists when a person invests his money in a common enterprise and is led to expect profits solely from the efforts of the promoter or a third party. The Supreme Court has repeatedly reaffirmed this Howey test. Did you hear the word solely in there? Profits solely. So you invest in something, there's a common enterprise, and you're expecting profits solely from the efforts of the promoter or a third party. And so this is why, and I will say this, I don't think that we need to take a sledgehammer to Howey and how securities are determined, but and I'll explain why. We do need more clarity in addition to safe harbor law. That would be additionally beneficial here. But no, I'm at a point where I'm actually on board with the idea of you don't have to take a hammer to everything. But where's the pain point? Where are we having trouble here? Well, even before the SEC came after Ripple, I've been making clear for years what I think the primary problem is. It's because, look, if something is being sold as a security, it's pretty much impossible to be sold as a security if there are tons of participants within an ecosystem that are impacting the price of the asset, right? We can all agree on that, right? And so that comes down to centralization versus decentralization. I think that's a huge part of it, right? And so there's nothing that's in Howey, because we're talking about, what is a common enterprise? Well, there's nothing in Howey, and this is where you're going to have to change something or add something supplemental, because there's nothing in Howey that says here's the threshold where if there either is or is not a common enterprise. What does it take? And so apply that specifically to blockchain. When is something sufficiently decentralized so that something is no longer perceived to be People are no longer speculating on an asset as a result of a common enterprise. Because something could start, like especially with a lot of these ICOs, I'd be on board with a lot of them. Yeah, there's clearly a common enterprise there. But then as the ecosystems develop, there's all sorts of other reasons people may invest or hold a particular cryptocurrency. And I'm telling you, Howie does not add, there is not sufficient clarity there. That's why this is such a train wreck here. It isn't, and he's pretending that there is, and that's disingenuous. I don't believe that he could possibly think that. Because again, if you believe that, you've got the world screaming at you, hey, I just want to know what to do so I can participate in crypto and blockchain. And you don't see that in other asset classes where people are speculating. How is this not abundantly clear? Of course it is. Of course this is clear. And so this is what I've been saying this for years. Again, before Ripple got sued by the SEC, I was like, you need this clarity. You really do. This is where you got it. Because look, in 2018, and I'll get to this too, like, he shared his opinions about Ether and XRP specifically. He said both were securities. Anyway, let me read a little bit further here, though. Oh, actually, let me mention this before I forget this, too. So I talked about how, yes, because of centralization versus decentralization, this will impact whether or not people invest, the number of developers building on top of a blockchain. That will impact it, obviously. But in addition to that, you need to have safe harbor, which is a proposal that has been put forth by one of 5 SEC commissioners named Hester Peirce. And I think that it's cited as, what she's proposing anyways, I think it's a 5-year plan where, yes, we acknowledge that technology starts out as centralized, which today means, hey, ICO land, you're in trouble, can't do this. But she's saying, okay, so let it start out like that, but then have a path towards that decentralization, right? And so she's fixing the problem, because if you don't do that, then in the United States, it's going to be just about impossible to launch a new cryptocurrency without fear of the SEC ultimately coming after you. There is not sufficient clarity. And this is very clear. So he's off in fantasy land pretending this isn't the case. That is not in line with reality. And so anyway, then he proceeds as follows. Further, this is but one of many ways we determine whether tokens must comply with the federal securities law. So he's referencing Howie there. I think former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton said it well when he testified in 2018. And here's a quote. To the extent that digital assets like initial coin offerings or ICOs are securities, and I believe every ICO I have seen is a security, we have jurisdiction and our federal securities laws apply. So, okay. Well, here's an interesting fact. Ripple did not have an XRP ICO. In fact, XRP existed before Ripple. So logically, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't even fall within that category. And so, and then if you're talking about there being an initial coin offering, if there's an initial coin offering, and Jay Clayton's saying every single initial coin offering he's ever seen does represent a security, then Ethereum, what about Ethereum? Look, that's the number 2 crypto in market cap at the time I'm recording this. Like, why wouldn't you go after the number 2 crypto in terms of market cap? Because it has been number 2 for like most of the last half a decade or whatever it's been. It's been up there the whole time. And there absolutely was an initial coin offering in 2014. It just wasn't called that. But it is functionally the same thing. And so then Ethereum gets a pass here, which is disgusting to me. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, and so here's the problem that we're seeing on top of what I've already cited. You're not seeing an even distribution of justice. You're certainly not. You go after XRP, which today clearly is not a security. And so, if you believe that today XRP is not a security, SEC, might you have mentioned that so that markets wouldn't freak out and you wouldn't have harmed investors in the United States and globally? Because cryptocurrency exchanges in the United States, a lot of them halted the trading of XRP or delisted it. If you're supposed to protect investors, don't you think maybe it would have been wise to say, hey, maybe past transactions we still insist that they were sold as security, but today the XRP that people hold in their wallets know that's not the case? There's clearly not sufficient clarity, and it's not an equal distribution of justice. This is the problem. This is absolutely, and so Ethereum somehow gets a free pass despite having a ridiculous ICO where millions and millions of dollars were raised by over 9,000 individuals throughout the planet, many of which are in the United States. See, this is why people are being rubbed the wrong way. This is why people are not fans of the SEC. All of these reasons, and there are many others, but these are some very important ones here. And so this is, Gary Gensler just sitting here agreeing with Jay Clayton's approach to all of this. And then he stated, I find myself agreeing with Chairman Clayton. You see, generally, folks buying these tokens are anticipating profits, and there's a small group of entrepreneurs and technologists standing up and nurturing the projects. I believe we have a crypto market now where many tokens may be unregistered securities without required disclosures or market oversight. Okay, so then why not acknowledge today, even if you believe that XRP specifically, since there's an important lawsuit going on surrounding Ripple and XRP, why wouldn't you cite today, given that there's tons of developers building on top of the ledger, not everybody that even holds XRP realizes it's a security, why wouldn't you just provide a little bit of clarity there? They don't want to. They don't want to give up an inch if they don't have to, because they want to be able to argue whatever argument they want to be able to argue. That's it. They don't want to close doors. They want to burn bridges for themselves. That's the real reason right there. And so it's a power grab and a money grab. And so then somebody named Nathaniel asked, just general out on Twitter, is Gary Gensler's full Aspen speech text anywhere? And SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce responded with a link to it. And Nathaniel then asked her, any chance we can expect a follow-up from you, Commissioner Peirce? And Hester did respond, actually, and she wrote the following, which is absolutely at odds. So again, where there's supposed to be clarity, well, you've got one of the most high-up individuals in the SEC, Hester Peirce, who is a commissioner, disagreeing, and she wrote the following. Nice to see Gary Gensler addressing crypto issues, but the existing securities laws don't work well for certain aspects of crypto. And people's freedom to interact using new technology has produced the innovation at the core of our prosperity. Looking forward to working together. Exactly. So on the second part of that, if you're not going to provide clarity, you are hindering entrepreneurial endeavors. You're hindering innovation, and you're harming financial markets. That is absolutely what you're not helping investors here. Exactly. Hester is absolutely correct on this. And then here's a tweet from attorney Jeremy Hogan, who retweeted that comment from my fellow XRP YouTuber Jungle Inc. that I shared towards the earlier part of this video. And Jeremy wrote the following. And this is, again, in reference to Gary Gensler saying there is sufficient clarity. Well, Jeremy said the following. Well, of course, Chairman Gensler said that there is regulatory clarity in the crypto world. He doesn't want his speech to be Exhibit A to Ripple's motion on its fair notice defense. What else could he say? And that is absolutely true. And that is a point that I actually brought up in at least one video 2 days ago. I was talking about exactly this. Of course, Gary Gensler, even if he thinks that things are messed up and he doesn't like the way that the SEC has gone after Ripple, and I'm not convinced he believes that, but even if he did, we're not seeing that via his words, and I wouldn't, like I said in my video where I was talking about that, you wouldn't expect him to articulate that, but we're not even seeing any actions that would make it clear that he wants to provide clarity. You know, that's where we're at, though. And then attorney John Deaton retweeted that tweet of Jeremy Hogan and said, maybe Gary Gensler should read Hester Peirce and Elad Roisman's public statements regarding the SEC's lack of clarity as it relates to digital assets. Yeah, no kidding. And I've shared that on my channel before, so I'm not going to run through it again in this video. But yes, it was a piece about coin schedule, and they're talking about how there never has been and currently is not sufficient regulatory clarity within the crypto space. And then there was this. From in response to Gary Gensler just sharing on Twitter, hey, I'm going to be speaking at Aspen, somebody named Clay Hen Fax wrote the following. Clayton did not think every ICO was a security. He and Hinman gave a pass to Ether despite its 2014 ICO. Guess why? Because they profited from giving Ether a pass, and now you're giving them a pass. Indeed, so if you want to evenly distribute justice here, go after Ethereum. And that's not what I actually want to happen here. That's not why I'm saying that. I'm just saying if you wanted to be fair and even, which would build trust, but they don't care about that. Well, that's what you do, though. This is not an even distribution of justice. This is completely lopsided. It's just all willy-nilly, whatever they feel in the moment. Who knows the internal reasons, what goes through these people's brains and coming up with who they're going to get all suey with. I don't like it. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. But, actually, no. One more thing. I want to share this, and then I'll wrap up. This is from You Today. The headline says it all. SEC Chair Gary Gensler, refuses to comment on whether Ether is a security. He's just dodging stuff. And look, I don't think Ether today is a security, but it very clearly was when it was going through its ICO stage, and there was a common enterprise, and there was going to be no expectation of profit without them. And it was being like, the ICO was to build Ethereum didn't even exist yet. So this is where we're at right now, and he just dodged the question. I don't want to read the article. Really, the headline does say it all. It's on your screen if you want to look. But the headline says it all. I'll wrap up there. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.